Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Brandon Cooper, CEO and co-founder of Aphid, an ecosystem and financial technology company disrupting the 9-to-5 workforce, utilizing AI and blockchain technology. Brandon, I'm so excited to chat with you. And obviously there's so many buzzwords in what I just said there, but I'm excited to know the mechanics behind it. Also, what the building and development process is, especially in the space that you're in. I know it's not as traditional, but has traditional elements to it. Right. So excited to uncover what that means. But before we get started, how many, and this will make more sense to the audience as we evolve through the conversation, but how many Brandon clones would it take to say, I don't know, run the whole world?
Oh man, the entire world. I think you need at least 10 to run the world. The president, and they have a lot of people behind them too. So at minimum, 10 people working on it at a VP level.
Yeah. I love that. And describe a little bit about the journey. What was your journey before Aphid, and what inspired you to start the company?
Ultimately, it was really me being at a job where I wasn't satisfied. It was really just taking up a lot of my time. The earnings wasn't what I wanted it to be at a particular time. We were never really satisfied as humans, where I was looking for the next thing. But it was just really from stress, to be honest with you. I mean, I had to take a lot of breaks and things away from work because I was just working a lot. And I know people who have jobs that were worse than mine. And it's not, it was a bad job. It just wasn't for me anymore. So me spending the time that I was spending at that particular job, I said, man, I wish I could just have another version of me working at the same time, doing some of these repetitive things where I could focus on other things. And it was just a crazy thought at that particular time. But I said, well, no one has really disrupted the 9-to-5. Like, everyone has side hustles and things like that, but there isn't a solution to this problem where people are spending 90,000 hours at a job over a lifetime. We saw a problem and talked to one of the other co-founders about the idea, and we started working on it.
I love that. And talk about this idea about the 9-to-5 and I think I've watched a few YouTube videos about it and its conception of it being part of the Industrial Revolution and really trying to pinpoint someone's maximum capacity. But there's so much more technology in the world now that I feel like we're doing a lot of repetitive things so often and being careless about the time we spent. And obviously employees can only impact the, I guess, structure of the organization so much. But where do you think the gap is for companies that are paying people and employees to do tasks, but not necessarily enabling them with tools like yours to be able to cut out some of the repetitive work? Where you see companies failing is it going into technology and discovering new things? Is it being stuck in the status quo? What, in your opinion, do you think companies haven't tackled ways, I guess, maximize efficiency with AI or with any other technology?
Well, I think their brains are really set on one thing, and it's just profits. They don't care about employees as a whole. It's really just about appeasing shareholders and the investors, the people who are a part of they're looking at their quarters and they're saying, hey, where can we cut corners, right? Are we doing anything that's going to help us to be net positive for this particular quarter? And you saw McDonald's, they have automated McDonald's, where they have now only need a couple people in there. So if you using McDonald's as an example, if you take every McDonald's that they own and then you cut away, you cut those people away from the company, you lay them off, look how much money they're going to save in terms of the labor. So from an enterprise and business perspective, they see that as the smart way to go. And then now those particular people who used to work there, for one, most of them are complaining that they're there in the first place. So they're like, hey, well, since you hate this job so much, bye. Then we had the Great Resignation in 2020 during COVID, and over 47 million people quit their jobs. So it's like, okay, well, what are you doing for money since you quit this job at places more like fast food places, right? Like, a lot of people are just like, I'm tired of this. I don't know what they're doing personally, but they were like, I've had enough. But what is their particular solution? Like, where do they go? They have to look into other industries, and AI is really ramping up right now. So about the next, I would say 7 years, you're going to see up to 800 million potential jobs being affected collectively And
Yeah.
that's a scary thought.
Yeah, it's scary, but on the flip side of that, I feel like ChatGPT, for instance, has up-leveled my productivity at least to generate certain pieces of content that would take energy from me. But now it's about the revision
Yeah.
of that, and then it's the improvement. How can people view the newfound capabilities of AI? How can they view it and utilize it in ways that's going to benefit them? And I guess how is Aphid kind of pioneering ways that could benefit, those individuals who may have done a job function for a certain amount of time, realize they can automate it, and then what do they do now? How can we enable them to use that technology and then build off of that?
Yeah, we've seen companies like Jasper, who's done article writing, and then ChatGPT is doing it as well. And now Google has released their competitor to ChatGPT, Bard. I don't know if you saw that yet, but you know, it was only a matter of time. They had to make moves because Microsoft is going to be implementing ChatGPT into Bing, the search engine. So that's going to, of course, make it very interesting.
Yeah.
But the way Aphid sees it is we're creating that network of those robot controllers. So we've created an ecosystem that's going to allow people to basically ingest their skill sets into a digital form. And you set the task of what you want those bots to do on the internet, whether it's customer support on your website, or if you wanted to automatically trade stocks on the stock market on an exchange, you can do that too. So it's really about what's your cup of tea. And some people say, look, I just want to save time. I want these repetitive tasks to be done. And then other people say, well, look, I'm more money driven. I'm going to focus more on the tools that are going to make me money.
Yeah.
So what Aphid is doing is we're creating a Swiss Army knife of automation as putting everything in one particular place. So you can not only use the tools that Aphid as a company builds, but you can also connect pre-existing AI tools in the marketplace that you already use.
Yeah.
Now you're not jumping through 40, 50 different apps, just going to be on the horizon. Aphid is putting everything in one spot. The way that you would search for flights on Kayak is the exact same thing, or Hootsuite for social media. Yeah, making things very convenient for the average person and creating something that's turnkey. And it's important that people understand that AI doesn't have to be scary, as I mentioned. It's only scary if there isn't a solution. And Aphid is providing that safe haven for people to say, hey, I at least have somewhere where I can still earn money.
Yeah, yeah. And what kind of when you think about building from a product standpoint, how do you carve, or I guess, how do you communicate the value of a product like yours? Obviously, I love this idea of the whole cloning. And I think, for me, at least, I'm a fan of your branding and how you've been able to kind of promote it, of course. But what came about that idea? When did you essentially, was that the initial idea on how you were going to go about it? Or what was the discovery process to get you to a point that you are now? And is that going to change as more technology kind of gets integrated into it?
Yeah, great question. A lot of it, you look at Henry Ford and the assembly line and everything that they were doing. I always wanted to create something that changed the game. And what we call the greatest, what I believe to be the greatest invention of the 21st century is really like, man, giving people their time back with their family, to automate your labor so we can spend time doing things like going to soccer games, baseball games with our loved ones. And it's up to you to decide how you want to automate your life in particular. But that type of moment for me was really just when I was at my job, man. And I was sitting there, man. I said, no, there's something here. I hadn't figured it out at that particular time of exactly what it was. Yeah. I knew it was going to start digital, right? And I was like, okay, well, let's look into this chat support thing, right? Where we can automate chat support. What else can be automated? And then you start to see all of these different use cases and tools that are, especially that's happening now. It really is going to put Aphid on steroids, because if you see anything on the internet and it's an AI tool, if it has an API, we're going to allow it to be connected to our marketplace. I'm a big advocate of collaboration and supporting brands and people that are building things, because I think everyone wants their own name on the building. That's just how it goes. People want the credit for the things that they build in particular, even if they're leveraging something like a ChatGPT or a Bard to create certain tools. We feel that's okay. Just listed in Aphid, we're fine.
Yeah, yeah. It's so fascinating that you bring up that point about needing the notoriety or just wanting the credit where credit's deserved. And it's funny when you talk about these tools, and a lot of people don't understand. It's like a lot of times, why use a screwdriver when you can use a power drill? And then why drill it yourself when you can have somebody else drill it? And it's the extrapolation of whether it's giving people or delegating responsibility that increases efficiency to a point where you feel extremely highly productive and then really cool stuff start to get built. As a founder yourself, when you were conceiving the idea and you were connecting with your co-founder, taking that leap into spending time 100% into a startup, what was scary about that? What was what was some of the initial learnings that you learned as a founder that you wish you kind of knew going into it?
Oh, good question. There's two answers to that because you kind of asked two in there.
Yeah.
The scary part was more you lose that safety net of a paycheck because I completely left the company that I was working for at the time. Just took the leap. And it was a prepared, calculated leap. It wasn't just like, hey, cold turkey, I'm out. That is a recipe for a disaster. It's a nightmare because you still have to take care of home. Yeah. And I think every entrepreneur going into a startup, that is something that you have to take into consideration, and you have to have your ducks in a row and take that leap. But on the contrary, sometimes there's never the right time to take a leap. Things are never going to be as convenient as you want them to be. And when I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, would Elon Musk be sitting here right now doing this particular task? Would Jeff Bezos be here, or would he be in the garage working on something? And I put myself in that same, and it was an awakening moment for me to say, you feel this dark, it's like you feel this dark cloud leave you.
Mm-hmm.
After you walk away from something that is no longer serving you.
Yeah.
It's almost like the door is open. You're a prisoner. The door is open. And you're like, hey, go ahead. I'm the one feeding you. But if you want to leave and go out there and figure out how you're going to eat on your own, go ahead. And the door has been open the whole time. Yeah. And you're afraid. But as soon as you walk through that door, the relief.
Yeah.
It's like this, type of moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you asked the second part of the question too. I want to make sure I answer that. If you could repeat that to me.
Yeah, the second part is just as a founder, when you're going through the process of building, what's something that you wish you knew early that you know now?
Yes.
That would have helped?
Ultimately, you want to start as simplistic as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I, in particular, as a creative person, it's very easy to want to create a version 4 or version 5 of all the things you want things to do. But the saying goes, done is better than perfect. And that doesn't mean that the product is finished, because it's never really finished. Yeah. But done is better than perfect means you put it out there and you get it going, and you start brick by brick to create a very simplistic feature. Because you can get busy doing a whole lot of things, man, that can waste a lot of time. And I think you can get into accelerators programs or different incubators that'll help propel you a lot faster and avoid a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of entrepreneurs go through because they're trying to figure it out on their own and they're not grabbing a mentor. I think that's really, really important in the early days of building a business. And then checking your market fit. Sometimes the best companies are built from a particular problem that you have, and then you look and say, hey, do you have the same problem? And a few people say, yeah. Maybe that business might only cater to 50,000 people, 100,000 people. And then some businesses might cater to the world, like Uber or Airbnb. It really just depends on what you want to do, what your end goal is. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the traction. How many users do you have on Aphid? What are you excited about in terms of last year's growth, and what's particularly excited about what you're scheduled to do this year?
Yeah, so we have a community over 50,000 people. We have 2,000 in our private testing right now. We just did a soft launch pilot actually last night on iOS. So right now, the main thing that you can do is that you go in and create your profile and snag your username. So if you're listening for the first time and you have iOS, I would suggest you go in and grab your username now for your Aphid. But yeah, so we've created a a decentralized login system called Aphid that allows you to own your own data as well. So when you sign up, you don't have to use Google or Facebook or Apple if you don't want to. If you use the Aphid option, you would own your own data when you sign up. But it's very minimal. We're going to be adding new things into the application, a lot of features, which is user experience, adding certain things, because we're building something that is a little complex, right? Like this, I told the community on the Twitter space, I said, listen, not Rome in a day. We are going to build this amusement park of rides as we go. And you guys are going to be able to test drive everything in the community and building your own rides for our amusement park as developers.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question that I haven't been able to ask some founders is, when you have the users have the ownership of their information, how do you then go about evaluating your users or going into like the data analytics of it? It's some question that always kind of is at the head of my mind, because once they extract their, say, if I'm no longer a user of Aphid for whatever reason, then you don't necessarily have that user data. But like, I guess, how do you view the user data that you have and the analytics that you drive from it? And then also, is it better because the people who are actively using it more about them, or is it limiting because less about people who are not using your product?
It depends. I can really only speak in terms of Aphid's values and our particular mission for our users. What you'll find is most people, when you know your information, you own your information and you have it, you're more likely to stay because you have that option. But if you wanted to go elsewhere, that's completely fine. We're allowed to track certain KPI metrics in the application. It's just about how that data is being stored. So like, you're like, hey, I want to, my earnings are in this particular place, then that's where your earnings are. But we at Aphid are storing the information, and well, not we're storing, but the Aphid is storing the information on what's called IPFS, which is a node network where the data is encrypted into people who are running machines on different devices. Most centralized companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, they have all your data on their server. So if Instagram, for instance, who's owned by Facebook, if they want to close down your account and you have 50,000 followers, some people 1 million, 2 million followers, and you do something against the community guidelines, that might be your livelihood. You might make 20 grand a post if you're releasing new merchandise, but now what has happened to your income as a creator? Those are the things that people need to understand about the importance of decentralization. And the best introduction to that has been blockchain technology, or the inception of Bitcoin in 2009. Yeah.
Wow, that's so fast. I didn't even think about the impact in just the creative space, especially not necessarily having, or a kind of, it's almost, there's this extra layer that's learning about how to extract more value out of you versus enabling you to get more value out of the product, which is such a crazy kind of the thing to conceptually think about in the change of the space. Going back to Aphid, what are some particular challenges that you face today as a company?
Well, right now it's really being able to handle the growth. Now we let people sit in the car and they're rubbing the seats of the Tesla, if you will, and they're like, okay, I like this ride, right? But really just about, because there's so many people interested in what we're doing, is really just being able to handle the volume and as we continue to scale. So it's really just, as a startup, it's about capital raise and being funded, but as it's really just about the traction. You have the eyeballs and you have the users, investors come. That's just how it goes. But we have a mentality where we are in the midst of raising our seed round currently, but at the same token, we're building. We're not relying on investors to defy our story. We're creating as much as we can with as little as we have in terms of our resources, but we have an excellent team.
Yeah. I love the bootstrap mentality. It's something I get. I'm almost addicted to that mentality. So I particularly love that. But if everything does go well, what's the long-term vision for the company?
Yeah, the long-term will be, as I say, the General Electric of automation. Yeah, we will be the go-to for all things automated. And that we're going to start with the software now, and then we have some other things, other surprises in the future that we're going to pull the veil back for the community to see as well. And I always say, and I'm a big person too of no ifs or when it happens.
Yeah. I love that too. I ask people that all the time, especially if they're like, "Oh,
the universe is always listening."
Yeah. I don't know if you got that from The Secret, but that's where I got that from. The Power of Attraction. Yeah. I have some rapid fire questions for you that I'd love for you to answer. First one is, what in particular is hard about your job?
Balance. It's as a CEO running a company, you have to balance your personal life. You have to make sure your household is good. You have to make sure your kids are okay, and all of those things for me, and even just leisure, right? Just taking time out to watch a movie, taking time out to read a book, taking time out to exercise. And when you're doing 4 or 6 meetings, sometimes for me a day, it's really tough to do. But I'm built for it. But for me, without meditation, I would have broke down a long time ago. So that keeps me grounded.
I love that. I love the honesty behind that. If you had time to spend in one particular area, whether it's something at work or personal, what would you want more time to spend on?
Travel.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot.
Travel, man. It's a difference between now and then, though, because as things start to, it's more mated. So once a company starts running, it isn't as much as like being up to 3 a.m. every night as it is in the beginning. It's more like, hey, you're just maintaining. Of course, you're always putting out fires. That's never going to stop. It's always going to be something just coming out of nowhere and dealing with some type of issues. But the beauty of having a digital company is I will be able to travel a lot more, and you can still run the company from wherever you go. But for me, I'm always locked in the lab like Nikola Tesla, working on different things.
Yeah. What in particular do you, at this point in time, spend more time thinking about? Is it fundraising? I know you kind of alluded that earlier. Is it fundraising, hiring, or building product? What's kind of at the top, and then how does the list go from there?
It's tough, but if I had to prioritize, for sure, it's the capital raise, because with the capital raise, you can hire for product, more developers, more engineers, more brains on it. Money moves things. But bottom line, so if I had to order it, it would for sure be that. So, and the crazy part of being a founder, or most startups, I've never really heard this, but it's almost like investors sometimes want you to have everything already running and because they want to de-risk. Right. But that's almost like saying, hey, I have this idea. I want to call this place, let's just use any restaurant. Let's just say a Chick-fil-A or wherever it may be, or Chipotle. And you say, this is how the food is going to taste. Go ahead and try a taco. You're talking to an investor, and then you say, okay, well, I need the money to build it because I have to hire construction workers to build everything and get everything up. Oh, no, well, we want you to build the store yourself and sell the tacos first before we invest. And it's like, that's just not how business works. But, now the landscape now, I think the right investors that are out there are the ones who understand the product. They see it, they get it instantly, they fund it, they send the wire. That's how business runs. And that's how unicorns are created.
Yeah. I love the advent of a lot of the digital world now, and the technology, especially with like no code frameworks and things along that nature, to allow you to build that seemingly what used to be like a mom and pop physical location to get traction. Now you can do it online, and that capability is just instrumentally, I think, creating cool new products and cool new businesses. If you weren't working on Aphid, what would you be doing?
Probably venture capital.
Yeah.
looking for founders who have that hunger that I see in myself, and help their dreams go to the next level. To me, nothing feels better than giving. The type of venture capitalist I would be is really just that one I just mentioned. I do your due diligence, make sure all of the financials check out and everything is good under the hood. Mm-hmm. And if it looks good, you write a check. Oh yeah, come back later. And no, you want to take that person from their garage up to the next level and believe in people, especially people who come from my particular background who are underrepresented. That's really important as well. A lot of founders of color, Latino founders, that really just don't get the credit that they deserve in every industry. They don't showcase in America the Mexican Denzel Washington or give them the Oscars or think. I mean, if you like really think about that. So I think evening the playing field for everyone, I think it would be very important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether it was early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, an important book. My journey started for entrepreneurship around 18, 19, give or take. The first book I really read that kicked it into gear was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like most people. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Stephen Covey has a good ones. John C. Maxwell, Leadership 101. A lot of those books really helped me get to where I am. And then general books, it could be something from Maya Angelou I might learn, or maybe something from Barack Obama. But in terms of career-wise, I would say like Sean Parker, who founded NAP. Creatively, like Kanye West, just like what he puts into his visuals, and just those kind of things are really important for me as a creator and inventor. Elon Musk, Nikola Tesla, and of course Steve Jobs, and really just the way Steve was a jerk, right? But his ability to, it's almost like he was controlling people's minds a little bit. I don't want to control people's minds, but when he's speaking in a room or he's trying to convey something, they end up giving into it. Steve Jobs was really, really good at that. Tupac Shakur was really, really good at that too. When they spoke, you could really, it just moved the room.
I always like to kind of ask this question for selfish purposes. Is there one thing as a founder, I know we talked about it earlier, but was there one thing that you're good at now that you wish you were better at earlier on?
I think there are a lot of things. I would probably just have to pinpoint it more towards just having a mentor in your corner, just to have that guided crutch during hard times. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I sought after him too, but just a lot of people didn't help me.
Yeah.
And there are good people, and it's not that I know a lot of bad people. I mean, they, in the public eye, they have a certain persona, but for me, like there are people that really could have helped put me in the game a lot earlier, and help just did not come. And I'm not a person that's like, oh, help. I have a drive like no other. But I think it's not really what I would have done differently. I just wish something would have been done differently for me to help me a lot earlier and expedited it. But we have the illusion of control. And so I think it's really like, if you've seen Slumdog Millionaire, it's really just about, I don't want to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it, but
go ahead. It's okay.
But a lot of things that happen in the movie basically defy your path. So as one event happens, it's setting it up for the next event that's to come, and you don't even see the importance of it until you look back and say, wow, that's why that happened.
Of course. Yeah. Before we go, of course, I would love to know your plugs. Let us know where we can find you, where we can download the app. I'm downloading it after this so I can reserve my ID, because I'm very, very much a proponent of having my username on Venmo, on just Julian Torres. So it's great. I want to keep that. Nice. But where can we find you? Where can we be a fan? Where can we be a fan of not only you, but Aphid and what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that, by the way. Much appreciated for your support. Yeah, you can follow the company at aphid.com. aphid.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Discord. If you go to the website, the easiest way is to go to the footer of the website. You'll see all the social medias there, opposed to you trying to remember all of these usernames, because they're different on some. Yeah. Me personally, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. It's Brandon Cooper, but for the Cooper, the O's are zeros in the Cooper. Now, I'll follow back. Just shoot me a message if I don't. If you guys checked out the show, yeah, for sure. Just stay in contact with me, and I'm a people's person. If I don't get to you fast enough, just circle back to me, because it's getting pretty busy right now. But
Good.
Thank you.
Of course, Brandon, it was such a pleasure having you on the show, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you again for being on Behind Company Lens.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.